Okay, let's now explore how Mindflexing can enable a future-ready transformation. So you're not only transforming your own mindset, your own way of thinking, you're helping equip and transform others around you, both at a team perspective and an organisational perspective, and then that rippling through to have an even greater impact on society around you. Now, let's explore some of those forces that you're contending against, though, with your flexing. So if we connect it back into some of the various points we've explored along the way, the first thing is to be aware of how that future ahead may be feeling to others. They don't have that clarity, they have that uncertainty, so think about the resistance that they will be applying to slow things down. Then there'll be various reasons why that inertia, why that holding on to the status quo is occurring. So fear of the future, fear of technology, the impact on jobs, of ways of working. And that's then compounded by these four forces that are applying pressure and volatility and shift and unpredictability around people. And then some of those forces, for example, the fourth industrial revolution, may just feel odd. So people will go, hang on, I thought I was stepping into the future by becoming digital, but now you're telling me digital actually isn't the future and there's some odd fourth industrial revolution that I now need to be equipped for. So while these concepts may make sense in your mind, how do you convey them to others? How do you help lead them forward into that future? Another way of looking at it, as we've seen, is how do you help them navigate from business as usual, from what they're comfortable with, that status quo, into that odd space, that business as unusual space. Another way of looking at that shift is they're going from what's proven to work into what's unproven, what's at the edge, what actually feels dangerous. So if you think about this thing of what's proven to work, this is where history repeats. But that's also where best practice exists. So think about best practice. It's what's proven to work. However, the reality is it can often be a decade out of date. And yes, you don't need to rewind, I said a decade. Think about it from a systems level view. How do you arrive at best practice? An organisation has to operate in a particular way. They have to repeat that way of working. Then other organisations have to do a similar thing so that studies can occur. Those studies need to be longitudinal studies over a period of time. That then has to be documented. It has to be peer reviewed. Then if that's going to be a new practice, training courses have to be developed. Then people have to apply those training and lessons. So all of a sudden, best practice is also old practice. Meanwhile, new emerging practice on the edge can just feel unsafe to many to actually step forward into that unproven space. As we've explored before, for you as an innovator, as a visionary, you may see the possibilities ahead and be willing to navigate the unknown. But for others around you, they may feel like you're asking them to step off the edge into that unknown. So it's vitally important that you not only equip yourself, but you also equip others to be able to transform, to impart these learnings as you transform the organisation. So if we look at how a future-ready transformation works, it's about that shift from the past into the future. And as we explored along the way, the future actually never arrives, because by the time it arrives, it's then the present. But there's constant movement forward. And some people will be holding back, while others may even be rushing too fast forward. So measuring and judging that cadence as a leader is incredibly important. Now at the same time, there's another force that lifts you and lifts the organisation upwards. But there can be beliefs and behaviours, so that's what culture is, that can be regressive and hold things back, can pull people back. But then conversely, there's progressive ways of operating that lift us up, move us forward. Then if you have a look at the evolution of an organisation, it begins on an S-curve. So when anything new comes along, it starts off slowly, then builds, then again can slow down. So you get this classic S-curve shape. However, the danger is that if people cling to these ways of working, that at a certain point, they're no longer new, they're no longer modern, and they can end up pulling them down. So instead, we have to navigate forward to the next S-curve. But have a look at this gap in the middle. It's not clear, it's not easy. This is why it feels like stepping off to the edge, because you're going into something unproven. Now, if we have a look at how people can feel about that change and their way of navigating through it, then you'll have people in your organisation who are resistant. You can probably think of those kind of people already, the kind of things they might say in meetings, they might say when you suggest a new idea. However, it's really important to recognise that we all have resistance within us, and resistance can be incredibly important at times. Think about a car. I don't think you'd want a car that doesn't have resistance, that doesn't have brakes. However, it's the ability to apply it only as needed. Then the next level above that is that you'll have people who will change, who will transform when they have to. So it's that reactive behaviour. It's those forces saying, hey, if you want to keep up, you have to shift now. But to be future ready, you want to be shifting ahead of that being forced externally on you. So that's why we then have reflective ways of working. This is a classic approach to strategy, to reflect on the past in order to plan for the future. Now the challenge is that at times people are reflecting on ages they've never experienced. So you can't actually reflect back on some of these forces. So how do you then navigate further forward? Well, this is when you then move above the line. So we've seen the rise of responsive ways of working over the past decade, whether it's agile or design thinking or other ways of working like that to get immediate inputs from the world around you and then respond and adapt based on those inputs. However, you're still just responding to the forces as they occur. So how do you think like a futurist and push beyond that? Well, in order to get to that state, you then have to step into that revolutionary space. As we've looked about, there's no way of doing it without going into that unpredictability and chaos. But you're navigating your way forward through that revolutionary space in order to lead others into that future, to avoid being disruptive. Because on the other side of that revolutionary space is the ability to be future ready. It's how you then build sustainable business models. And recognizing where your team is at, where you yourself is at in different situations, then enables you to navigate forward. And to recognize that natural inertia that will occur through pushing beyond responsiveness into revolutionary ways of working. Which is why we're spending this time together to explore that revolutionary space together in order to be future ready. Now, let's link that back to what's going on in the brain, and we'll use that glass example again. So think about the different people that you may be leading through this transformation, or it might be a project that you're working on, and you're wanting to Mindflex your way forward on that and inspire and lead others through. You're going to have, in a very broad sense, some people who have a half-empty perspective, either on the world or on this particular initiative. You'll have people who have a half-full view of things. However, the situations are typically even more extreme than this, because if you think about those half-empty people, you'll have some who are going, hey, and that water's probably not even safe to drink. Now, it's not about saying to those people that's not the right attitude to have, because that will often just make people even more entrenched and set in their fears and their ways. So it's actually how do you inspire them forward? Then you'll have the eternal optimist. So to be a visionary, to be an innovator, you have to see possibilities. So someone might be seeing that glass of water and going, hey, it's not even just half full, there's 83 other glasses just out of frame over here that you can't even see. So how do you bring those very different type of perspectives and personalities together? Well, for example, the person who's saying, hey, that water might not even be safe to drink, you can actually say to them, well, that's a good point. But then how might we make it safe to drink? So can you see how you're then taking that resistance and inertia and actually channeling it forward towards those new future-ready possibilities? And that's how you then take this ability to be Mindflex and actually build it into an organisational capability so that you're actually lifting people in the organisation upwards. So keep in mind, this ability to Mindflex to be future ready is often at its heart shifting people's view of the world, changing those perspectives. So let's now do that. As we keep moving forward, we've got to shift our perspective. So we can head off in this direction, or we could change our perspective and head off in this direction. And remember, got to be ready for volatile, unexpected change.